Well, good morning, everybody. To get us started today, I kind of wanted to set up my long-range forecast that I'm going to release later on this afternoon, talking about some of the implications of the remainder of winter and then into spring of what's going on with La Nina. So just to kind of get a quick snapshot of this, we've continued to see the waters warming up here. We still have some stronger trade winds that are in the central equatorial Pacific. But the big question is, if we start to lose the influence of La Nina, how quickly does an El Nino event take over? And that'll be one of the big things we discuss. I put it in today's report, but I just want to make things very clear that as this La Nina starts to loosen its grip and other things begin to take over and maybe have a more dominant effect on the pattern, we will not just very quickly break over into the opposite phase or El Nino-like conditions. We'll talk about historically how quickly those transitions have happened. I think probably the most important thing to discuss is that what we are still seeing in the longer range forecast is that by February, March, and April, so the end of winter and beginning of spring, most forecasting systems suggest, like the IRI multi-model forecast group here, that there's better than an 80% chance of INSO neutral conditions. And so I illustrate in the report today what that might mean, but the biggest implication here is that if we lose La Nina, most of North America's risk of extending the drought decreases. We have a lower likelihood of having drought continue into 2023. Now, where we're watching very carefully our drought situation is seen here on satellite. Let me take you back to last night. There was a sizable dust storm that came out of New Mexico through Texas. This has been one area that's been extremely dry, not only for the last couple of months, but even, of course, extending back into last year. And as this first of what will be three lows that cut across the United States took shape, it did last night. We'll watch it in the infrared imagery here. Produced some pretty strong storms in Arkansas that eventually in the overnight hours came into parts of kind of here where the Ohio River meets the Mississippi and into western Kentucky. A couple of these storms produced some very large hail. We can see that on the storm reports in through here. Some of this was over 2 inches in diameter. Now, in the last 72 hours, of course, we've now seen, I believe this is the sixth onshore flow event in the west. And some of the precipitation totals here just continue to add up. In fact, some of the big municipalities like San Francisco, for example, has almost seen 15 inches of rain just out of these last several events here. We have more coming to the west. I'll show you that in a few seconds, but I did want to illustrate where some of the heavier rains did fall last night. Now, there was severe weather here, as you saw, but today we're looking at a pretty large area over the southeast that does have the risk of seeing some of these stronger storms again today. So parts of Alabama into Georgia is kind of where the Storm Prediction Center's put down its enhanced risk. We can kind of get a good look at this by going right to the high-res NAM. So if we watch, yep, there's some snow on the back side of this in parts of Missouri, very wet snow. But we're going to watch later today. This is this afternoon and this evening for that front to cross right in through parts of, again, Alabama, Georgia, then hitting the hitting the Appalachian Mountains. I'm today in Raleigh, and I'm supposed to fly out later tonight, so hopefully I'll be able to get over these storms and get home. But you do notice that we see on the back side of this some very heavy snow through parts of Ontario and Quebec, and then the possibility for some snow showers in some of the cooler air. There's not a lot of deep cold air behind this, but there is the possibility for some snow showers here. Well, that front continues to clear the coast tonight into tomorrow morning. And again, we're going to see some of the heavier snow wrapping up on the back side of this in the eastern Great Lakes. So something to keep a lookout for, and also pushing up against the kind of the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. Be a cold rain moving into New England out of this, though. So that system clears and high pressure builds in, and we watch the next system coming into the western United States. You put together the next 7 days, we're going to continue to see that wet weather in the west until about January 18th or 19th. And at that point, we're going to see the jet retract. The flow is going to stop coming in like this and start coming in like this. But there will be a couple more systems that roll just like this, which really start to take shape over the Ohio Valley, and that's why this is an area that's looking, much wetter than normal over the next 7 days or so. It is important to see where the drier conditions are and where they have been, like the Canadian Prairie, the Northern Plains, and of course this region down here in the southwestern plains. Also take note that because of the trajectory, we've been talking about this a lot this week, because of the trajectory of these lows, from coastal mid-Atlantic area down through the Carolinas into Florida, this has been drier than normal as well. So let's go have a look at this. All right, European model, we've already seen that system out. So let's just get it out of the way. We're going to watch the west for the next big onshore event showing up here later this week. So this is now Saturday midday. Now that particular wave, as it moves across California and Nevada, adding more to what's already been seen, could be a big snowmaker here in parts of the Four Corner states. Very uncertain amounts, especially in the southern Rockies, out of this, but we're going to watch for this event this weekend. Now that low emerges in Colorado and moves over to Kansas, once again leaving a pretty sizable dry slot on the back side of it. But this is now Monday morning, Monday afternoon, and evening as that low kind of cuts through parts of Iowa and Wisconsin. So too mild in through here to be bringing in snow. But as you notice, another system on Monday night is coming through California. This is probably the last of these strong onshore events coming into California. And then that one, excuse me, ejects again into the Four Corner states. And that's why we have a lot of uncertainty, but the potential for some big snow here in the central and southern Rockies. Now, as this system comes out here on Wednesday, watch this. We do have to be on the lookout. Again, this is about a week from now for some strong to severe storms in the same places we've been seeing them. Unfortunately, that same rain shadow effect, the dry slot on the backside of this shows up. But you do notice how two things are going to happen. As this low comes through, the flow into the west comes like this, and there might be enough cold air to be talking about some snow on the northern side of this low. So next Wednesday into Thursday, I know it's a week out, but that system's been in the models. It's got some ensemble support. We're going to have to look out for the potential for some heavier snow in parts of the Midwest here, all right? So let's distill this down into a few maps. The map on the left represents the locations that are going to be dry. So this is where we have, over the next 10 days, the probability of getting less than 1/10 of an inch. It's where we just saw that dust storm here, and then getting up into the northern plains and Canadian prairie. Where it's going to be wettest, of course, that's going to be in the west, but you just want to identify this other corridor in through here where these next two systems are rolling through to deliver the heaviest precipitation. On the snow side of it, I'm starting to see increased confidence in the models of an event right here, January 18th, 19th. We just talked about it, increasing the chances of getting some snow. And this has been an area that's not seen a lot of snow yet this year. It's been mostly north of that in through this corridor. But the west, we do have places in California that still could get another 48 inches of snow out of these next few events coming into the west. We can also see the heavier snows into parts of Quebec and Ontario and far into the interior of New England. Now, the jet stream is expected to continue its strong onshore flow till about the 18th, 19th. And as you go from the 20th to the 22nd, there will be a retraction and split flow. Now, that's going to increase the activity in this portion of the subtropical part of this jet stream, but it's going to start to deliver colder and drier air into the west. You can see that the week 2 forecast is drier across the west, while the activity picks up here in the eastern part of the United States. The temperature pattern is going to reflect that as well. This is a 5-day sliding window of temperature anomalies playing out here through, let's just park it right there again as we normally do on the day 5 through 10 time period. So very mild east, very mild on the Canadian prairie compared to normal. But we start to see evidence of some change here coming into the southwest. And that cooler air begins to spread farther to the east as we get toward the end of January. And there's a lot of indicators, like the change in the jet stream behavior, the potential vortex disruption, polar vortex disruption that's happening, and the MJO moving around that suggests that February's temperature pattern will likely not look at all like we've seen in January. The other place these changes are going to affect is going to be South America. Now, we do see in the next 15 days drier conditions in Brazil's far northern growing areas, but this hits Mato Grosso, this hits Tocantins, parts of Goiás and Rondônia here. Very wet in central Brazil, and better rains are forecast to come into Rio Grande do Sul. This has been an area that's been really negatively impacted by drought this year. Still drier signal in Argentina, but the models are suggesting, despite having a big frontal feature coming through, better chances of isolated convection or storms in Argentina. Regardless, a lot of the damage to the crop has been done here, and this is going to continue to be a main story going forward. So we'll talk to you again later today with an in-depth report. Other than that, though, have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.